Hi, Laura back, and this time I'm with L6M1, Learning Objective 1 question. So I've decided to choose this one to be the case, so I hope that this is a useful video on what could be a potentially tricky question. The question is, in order to achieve support for his proposals, Sean must inspire the departmental managers. Discuss the aspects of inspirational leadership that Sean might use with the departmental managers in order to gain their support. So inspirational or transformational leadership is kind of used interchangeably here. And there's a number of theorists that we need to throw into this answer. So it makes it a little bit trickier to get the high marks. We always read the question before we read the case. So let's drill into the case and then we can look at how to answer this best. So the case study is based on EMF. And EMF Electronics was reviewing a proposal to relocate production operations from Southern Europe to South America. This proposal was sure to meet with some resistance, but the continuing demand for EMF products in North America was a significant opportunity for the organization. Production costs are currently favorable in South America, whilst the proposed relocation there would still give good market access to North America. The supply chain director of EMF, Sean Park, considered that the savings were critical to the company and that distribution could still operate throughout Europe with a price advantage, even including the additional transportation costs back to Europe. The project would fundamentally reconfigure the operations of the supply chain and have significant impact upon many employees of the organization. So this is a huge change. It's a relocating across the world. So let's see how Sean manages this. Sean knew that maintaining the engagement of key stakeholders was crucial for the relocation project to succeed. Therefore, he realized that creating a communication plan for the implementation of the relocation project would be crucial. Sean gathered the EMF departmental managers together for a presentation on the proposal. In building high-performing supply chain operations for EMF in the past, he had been meticulous in planning and coordinating process and project management activities. In this presentation, he knew that he needed to inspire and motivate the departmental management team. He acknowledged that there would be resistance to such a large-scale change, but felt confident that strong leadership would be able to overcome this. So Sean seems like he's done this before, but he does seem quite positive. After the presentation, Sean invited questions and was quickly overwhelmed by the negativity. The issues raised, the challenges made to his proposal, and requests for further information. So maybe he was being a bit naive. He was particularly concerned with a series of issues raised by the logistics manager, Celia Groves. Celia had worked with the organization for over 25 years and was very well respected by senior management and fellow employees alike. The points Celia made systematically challenged the arguments for the project proposal. She argued that much more could be done to reduce the cost of the current European production location. Sean noticed that others in the room were nodding in agreement. Sean had planned to use the same presentation later that week to key suppliers in order to take the project forward. He now considered that a different approach might be required. So he got a lot of logic and a lot of negativity, and he wasn't prepared to deal with it. Upon returning to his office, Sean reflected upon the presentation to the departmental managers. He knew that carrying through a large and complex project such as this, with fundamental change requirements, was going to be very challenging. Although he still felt convinced that it was the right thing to do, he realized that he would have to assemble a strong project team to support him. He also recognized that his approach to managing the change might have to adapt depending upon the stage of the project and the barriers encountered. He glanced out the window and saw Celia and some of the other departmental managers deep in discussion outside. Their discussions looked serious, and Sean was concerned about a negative group influencing the broader team. Sean decided to call his old mentor for some advice. A direct line to the chair of the board was always an advantage. So that's the case study. Let's go back to the question. Discuss the aspects of inspirational leadership that Sean might use with the departmental managers in order to gain their support. So what we need to do is define the inspirational leadership. And inspirational leadership is the ability to be a positive influence on those around you and motivate others towards success. So the whole idea of inspirational leadership actually came from a theorist called Burns, who talked about transactional and transformational leaders. And he was talking about how these transformational leaders inspired and were inspirational in getting people to be motivated. And so from this, Bass and Avolio created their 4 I's of basically inspirational leadership framework. And these are the 4 I's that you need to discuss if this question comes up in your exam. Idealized influence, inspirational motivation, intellectual stimulation, and individualized consideration. So those are the major 4. I think it is important that you tell the examiner that you're aware that inspirational leaders are sometimes referred to as transformational leaders, as per Burns, and that they're also transactional leaders as well, which is all about giving something away to get money. But however, you're going to focus on these 4 I's for the majority of your essay. And we're going to drill into each one of these now. So let's look at idealized influence. Inspirational leaders serve as role models for employees in every way. That includes modeling ethical and socially desirable behavior, maintaining their dedication to work goals, and exhibiting enthusiasm, key word, enthusiasm, about company strategy. And so that's our explanation. Your statement is idealized influence. Then we have our explanation. And then you need to relate it back to the case. So Sean needs to show idealized influence. He needs to walk the talk. He needs to go and visit the European and South American supply chains. He needs to state he is willing to relocate himself and his family potentially as well, so that people know that they're looking up to him in terms of ethics and that he is willing to do what he is asking of everyone else. So that's a key thing. So that's idealized influence. Inspirational motivation. Employees want leaders to impart a vision that's appealing and worthy, this desired future state that we want to get to. Inspirational leaders do that by communicating a vision so well that followers internalize it. It becomes something that's part of their values, where they want to go as well. The motivation to achieve is not fear-based. So it's not, if you don't do this, then, it's all over. It's inspired by example. So perhaps Sean, because we've got to link it back to the case, Sean could show inspirational motivation by talking about the difficult changes that he's already made and how this could make the difference for the future of EMF electronics, how it could change all of their lives. Maybe even, try and motivate them with new training that might be available, the fact that they can learn new languages if they're moving to South America and so on. All of this can help motivate staff. The next I is intellectual stimulation. So inspirational leaders aren't the ones that just go, yeah, do it how we've always done. They question that. They question, this is the way we've always done things. They take on the status quo. They say, why does it have to happen like this? And they challenge assumptions of even the most veteran leaders, i.e. Celia. So they encourage the same mindset of their employees, that they want people to strive for better and to work for more. And I think here we can be talking about how Sean needs to lead with this mindset. He has to talk about how this could be the difference for the future of EMF. And he needs to start by essentially getting his veteran leaders on board. Start with getting Celia on board, get her engaged in this and believing in this. And then she can help with the intellectual stimulation of the rest of the organization. And then the final area is individualized consideration. And this one for me is the most important from leaders across the board. Essentially, it makes people feel that they matter as an individual, and that their feelings and thoughts have been taken into account. So one of the key inspirational leadership traits is the ability to transmit a sense of the larger culture to the individual, giving people a feeling of ownership in the company goals, that they are independent in the workplace, that it's their baby, they're working to things, and people trust them to do that. They do not dictate ideas from a bubble and then leave it to employees to carry them out. And they're all about the professional development of their staff. So training, increasing work-life balance, positive relationships. It's about taking care of them as an individual. And so this is a huge change. People are going to be scared of this and resistant. Sean should have treated everyone as individuals, and instead of treating everyone as the same and talking to them as a group, he maybe should have talked to people privately and taken their fears into account. He could have sold the different benefits to the individuals of a lifestyle change. Like in South America, they could potentially be on the beach or near the rainforest or wherever it may be. And it's a whole other sort of life than maybe in Southern Europe. So he needs to be able to sell this to the individuals and talk about how it's an experience for them and their family. But he didn't do that. The fact is, he talked to everybody generically, and then it created mass resistance for him. So this would have been a more effective approach to take. Now, do remember, because there's only 4 I's, you have to talk about it a little bit more. You have to go into a bit more detail. So I'd want to see this level of detail, and then again, a couple of sentences, maybe 3 sentences at a minimum to relate it back to the case, because there are marks that are allocated to you applying it back to the case. Never forget that. So this can stand for a standalone essay on inspirational leadership or a case study. You can see that the case study requires a little bit more analysis, but it is there for you to use and help. I hope you found that useful. Thank you for listening. We'll come back with another level 6 constructive response question soon. Bye for now.